Hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I will be reacting to Chandler Ainsley hating my favorite book of all time. So if you guys are unaware, Chandler from Chandler Ainsley is a very popular booktube channel. I'm sure you guys all know who she is. She is actually the person that influenced me to make my booktube channel way back in December of last year. I say way back as if that was a really long time ago. Suffice to say, I have always looked up to Chandler and her channel has just grown so much since I first started watching her. I am just so proud of her and everything that she does. She is such a huge inspiration. And I like to think that we are friends. I mean, you never know. She is a Scorpio. She could hate me behind her back, but I like to think of her as a friend. And something that I know about Chandler is she has never read The Song of Achilles, which is my favorite book of all time until now. For her new video, she has read The Song of Achilles. I know that because she tweeted this. And I was so incredibly excited because I really thought that she was going to love this book. It is the pinnacle of romance. I mean, to me, there is little else that is more romantic than having to rewrite history in order to be with your long-lost lover. So I was so excited to hear her thoughts about Song of Achilles. And then, unfortunately, she finished it, and her Goodreads update said this. And so that is when I got the idea to maybe film the torturous crying session that is about to occur when one of my favorite booktubers ends up not liking my absolute favorite book of all time. Now, I don't think this needs to be said, but I'm just gonna say it anyways. I love Chandler. As I've said, I do consider us friends. This is nothing to do with her taste, my taste. Shocker, you can be friends with someone who doesn't have the same book taste as you. In fact, if you don't believe me, another one of my really good booktube friends, Monty, I actually found him through his rant review of Song of Achilles, and in fact I'm just going to link it up there in case you guys want to watch as well. So obviously I don't mind people criticizing my absolute favorite book, and in this case it is providing me content because here I am making a video reacting to Chandler being disappointed with the absolute masterpiece that is Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. So, with that said, let's just get into it, shall we? I have my laptop here and I am just going to watch the video. I'm going to be watching the entire video, but I am only going to be including the clips in which she mentions Song of Achilles because I don't want to include her whole video and then you guys watch my video instead of her awesome video. You guys get what I mean. Can you tell that I'm stalling? I am so incredibly nervous. I don't know what she's gonna say. I'm just gonna be so sad because I love this book with my whole heart and soul. I have a signed, personalized copy from Madeline Miller. She's one of my favorite authors. She made me cry when I met her, and I love this book so much. It's again also one of the first books that have ever made me cry, and it's just so beautiful and soft, and I'm so not ready, but we're gonna do it because content. Alright, let's do it. Let's just watch it. Let's just go. I'm not ready. Okay. Okay, so her video is a lot more complicated and creative and just incredible. So I found the Song of Achilles vlog. It's 9 minutes and 24 seconds. I'm ready.
So you have selected for me to read Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I am 30% into this book, and I am, much to, I'm assuming, no one's surprise, really enjoying this book. I am 30% into the audiobook. That was kind of the only way that I was able to get my hands on this book.
Okay, 30% and she is really enjoying it. So that's something. That's a win. That means she doesn't absolutely hate it. That's good.
And I'm enjoying it. I haven't really had much to say before this point, so I didn't really want to just get in front of a camera and say it's good. And I'm still kind of at that point, I don't know that I have super articulate thoughts to say yet, except for I am in awe of the way that this is written. It's beautifully done. I was kind of worried going into this that I would kind of hate the lyricism of the story. I've heard that Madeline Miller does really beautiful prose and stuff, and I'm like, cool. I don't know. I'm not someone who's usually very impressed by flowery writing, and this isn't flowery, but I just think the way that it's told, it really does feel like an epic almost. Like, you can definitely tell, I mean, since you're going from, you know, not the birth of this kid, but like 10 years old all the way to his adulthood, you're getting just that, like, yeah, coming of age, like, epic kind of story feel. I'm not very good at articulating my thoughts on this. I'm also not someone who knows a ton about the story of Achilles and Patroclus. Do they even have like a story together? Before this, I don't know. I don't know much about this story. I mean, I did read Oedipus and like all that shit back in the day in high school, but I literally remember nothing of Greek mythology. I'm not sure if I'm the best person to be speaking on this, but like, I'm enjoying the way that it's told.
Yeah, I completely understand what she means by that. Madeline Miller, it's not exactly flowery like Laini Taylor or Renee Audier. It is very much reminiscent of Greek plays. She took a lot of inspiration from Greek epic plays, both in the content of the book as well as how they're told. It is, like she said, it has this very epic feel to it, and the way Madeline Miller crafts basic emotions and basic things like them training and them just growing up together, it has such an impact. And the way she incorporates language, it makes the story seem so large and have so much stakes to it, both because the play is just such an ancient piece of literature, and as well as how she uses her language and sentence structure and all of these things to really craft atmosphere and take us back to ancient Greece in those ways.
And goddamn, this shit is so gay.
Ah!
In the best possible.
Yes! Yes, it is! You're so right.
That the tension that's built is perfect, and I can totally understand why so many people relate to this story, enjoy the story, and see it as like a beautiful romance. I mean, I'm not very far into it. I think they're still like in their early teen years, so nothing like truly romantic has happened yet, but I am such a sucker for a good friends to lovers romance, especially when it is childhood friends to lovers. You see their development over time. I love stories like this, so I really do think that this is going to be,
I love them so much,
a winner. Not to speak too soon or anything, but I do.
She spoke too soon.
Like I said, enjoying this book. I think the only like real scene that I have, I don't say connected with, but the only thing that I have to like really remark upon, besides just like the general beauty of the writing and stuff, is the scene where both of the boys are with Chiron, the like, is he a centaur? I don't fucking know. He's got hooves. He is teaching the boys like various things, and like they're supposed to be learning, and I don't know. He says that Achilles has nothing else to learn when it comes to war and battle. Like, he is a skilled fighter. He's going to be like the fighter of his generation. No one's better than him. And then he tells Patroclus that he has average skill and that he's never going to be like famous for anything. That was a little bit heartbreaking. So I'm hoping that things turn around for our man, because he's so adorable, and I love that it's told from his point of view, kind of not from the underdog, but you know, like what it's like to not be the star of the show. I don't know. I feel like so often we get the point of view of the famous person or the person who's like, you know, the chosen one, and now we get to see from a different point of view, so I think that's pretty cool.
Patroclus is absolutely the standout of this book. I am actually not a huge fan of Achilles. He is an absolute asshole and a dick of a character, of a man. He's a mess. But because the story is told through Patroclus, and it not only kind of rewrites history on how their relationship was built, but also gives this perspective, as she said, of this underdog character. It is so enlightening, especially because so many of Greek plays deal with these epic characters, because obviously, and I love that Madeline Miller does this, and this is how she centers her writing, is she chooses the characters that have often been overlooked or not examined enough. She did the exact same thing with Circe, and one of the things that I will never forget about the Madeline Miller signing that I went to, and if you guys are at all curious about that, I will definitely link that up above. If you are a fan of her, definitely recommend going to watch that, because she is so intelligent and such a beautiful person. Somebody asked in the audience, and they asked her why she was so drawn to Achilles when drafting Song of Achilles, and Madeline Miller just says, I wasn't drawn to Achilles, I was drawn to Patroclus. And that just sends shivers down my spine because it really shows when you examine this book and read it and just see all of the heartbreaking thoughts and feelings Patroclus goes through while being the lover of the Greeks' greatest hero. I love him so much. He is the softest bean of the softest beans, and it's immaculate.
With that being said, I don't have much else to say about this book yet. I think I need to get to like the halfway point to really have a true opinion on it, but so far so good. It's cute, it's gay, it's everything that I had expected and anticipated, and that's really all that I can ask for. So I like how I said that they hadn't like done anything sexual because they were young, and then literally like half an hour, not even half an hour later, like 10-20 minutes later into this audiobook, they start like petting each other, getting very frisky. Beyond that, a lot of shit has happened, none of which I'm like super excited about, which is sort of frustrating because like the idea behind this book I understand why people like it, but I don't know if it's really resonating with me, and I don't know if it's because I'm listening to it on audio and I'm not like very raptly and intently interested or like, you know, whatever, attentive to the story, but I'm just like not blown away. And I think part of it is because it's not a romance. I mean, like, there are romantic elements to it, and, like, there definitely is a male-male relationship that happens at the center, but I don't think that, like, this story is what I want it to be. That sounds bad, but I don't know. The things that have happened, I'm like, what the fuck?
Okay, before she does finish that thought, I'm gonna disagree, because you know what? No. Let me let her finish talking.
Achilles ends up getting like taken away by his mother, and then,
I know exactly what she's talking about.
Whenever Patroclus finds him, I don't know how many months or years later, he is married to a woman who he has impregnated, and he is able to kind of get away from that situation though. Like, it wasn't an agreeable match or some shit. I don't fucking know. Anyway, they end up a few years later, or I don't even know like what the time period is for all of this, to be honest. Like, I have no idea, but he ends up, both of the boys end up joining the search for Helen of Troy. They're basically gonna go to war for Helen of Troy, which, like, I think I'm stupid, but I do remember that from Greek mythology and whatever, history. I don't know how much of this shit actually happened. None of it. A random girl just got slaughtered, a sacrifice to the gods, and someone tells Patroclus that he needs to allow Achilles to be a killer because that's what he's here for. He's supposed to be a warrior, and like that's what he's supposed to do, and he's too soft-hearted. I don't know, the plot is just not that compelling to me, which is disappointing since this book is you know, a favorite of so many people, but I'm just not blown away.
Okay, so I definitely disagree about this not being a romance. Mainly because the story is not a retelling of the Iliad in a sense that it shows the events of the Trojan War. Obviously it does, and I would say there's more of the leading up to it, which maybe that is why she thinks this, because it definitely has more of the behind the scenes aspect in like the first half of the book before the war actually starts. But for the most part, the book does not center around the war. It centers around Patroclus and Achilles and their relationship and kind of the effects of the big points of the war. So I definitely do not agree that the book isn't centered on the romance. I definitely think that, like I said, I see why she thinks that at the events right before the start of the war, because the scene with Achilles and Diademea, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I may love Greek mythology, but I don't know how to speak Greek. So, Diademea and Achilles and Patroclus, and that whole relationship is the weirdest part of the book, and that is something that I feel like I need to reread the story a couple more times to really see why that was included. Well, I know why it was included because it's part of the myth, but it was just so weirdly done, and that's definitely probably the biggest negative I can think of the book. So I understand why she kind of lost steam a little bit, because the whole scene where Achilles was kidnapped by his mother and secretly married and had to sleep with Diademea, and then Patroclus gets all jealous and all of that stuff, definitely a weird time. So although I don't agree that the book isn't centered on the romance, I get why she said that at the point in which she was at, if that makes sense.
So I'm gonna go, but I'm sad. If your name is Heather or Carly, please click off of this video. You're not gonna like what I have to say.
Oh my god.
So, I'm always so conflicted when this kind of shit happens. Like when I rave about a book and then I end up not loving it. But I think it also is kind of cool to get my emotions as I'm reading, you know? Like I did enjoy this at the beginning, and then the last half, it just really didn't work for me. How do I say this? I don't fucking like Greek mythology. I forgot how much I disliked it. I dislike everything about it. How everybody has to die. Everybody has a fatal flaw. You know, and I guess that's like realistic to human beings in general, right? Like everybody is flawed and like we do stupid shit. But the end of this book was just so boring. I'm not really into like war or like battles, and that was like the last half of this book was just, you know, people at war, people getting ready to go to war, and then some tension between Achilles and Agamemnon, I think. I just didn't give a fuck. I really, how would I describe this book to people? I was telling someone just a second ago via text that I think this book has too much romance for fantasy lovers, but I also think it doesn't have enough romance for romance lovers. Like, I just didn't get what I wanted out of the story, and I understand that like the point of the story wasn't necessarily to be a romance, but that was sort of at the forefront of the story, and yet I don't know. I literally, I don't know what I would have preferred. I think that's the hardest part about this book. It was an enjoyable enough read. I wasn't completely turned off from finishing it or anything, but it just didn't do it for me. I don't know. I wanted it to be more romantic. I just feel like the romance portion of this book happened very, very early on, and then the latter half, like I said, was just content that I didn't care much about. And I did enjoy the plot elements in the first part of the book when it was a smaller cast of characters, when things were simpler. I read a couple of reviews for this actually right after I finished reading. I'm gonna leave a link to the one that kind of like sums up my thoughts in a more articulate way in the description down below, but they agreed. They were like, yeah, there was just like so much war and I just ended up not caring. I wanted to love this so much and I just don't, and that's really disappointing. I am glad, I guess, that I only had access to the audiobook version of this rather than, you know, purchasing a copy for myself. I've been I've been putting off purchasing a copy for myself because I like hardcovers and it's like impossible to find this book in hardcover, and now I don't have to, so I guess that's good. But yeah, I don't know. This just didn't really hit the spot for me. It didn't really scratch the itch. Like when I'm reading a book, I want it to satisfy some part of me. Like if it's fantasy, I want it to have some like cool twists and things that really get me going in that way. And if it's romance, I want it to be like, you know, heartbreaking or just like really romantic. I didn't cry at this. This was not something that really made me that emotional. So I don't know. I don't think it had its intended effect on me. That being said, I can recognize that this is a beautiful novel. I can understand why this is other people's favorite. I think if you're someone who absolutely adores mythology, this is an amazing retelling. I just don't really like mythology is what I'm finding out. Like the whole morality, tragic side of things, it's just not really my thing. I don't like sad shit. But that's not like obviously why I disliked it. Not just because it was sad, it was just not the kind of story for me. So.
Okay, so it wasn't too bad. I don't really know what to say about her closing thoughts. I don't know what to say because I don't think the book centered around the war. I think bare minimum, like if you read the Iliad or if you don't read the Iliad and you just go into Song of Achilles expecting an Iliad retelling, I think you'll be disappointed. It has the major beats to it, but it really focuses on Achilles and his stubbornness and his flaws and not really the battles. Like it talks about them going into battle, but like it doesn't explain the battles, and at the point in which Achilles decides to not fight anymore, we get more of him and Patroclus trying to convince him, and this angsty stubbornness that occurs and all of those things. So I don't agree with the fact that the book centers around war, because it really doesn't. At least in my opinion, it doesn't. I get because it's like the setting and there are like a lot of battles and soldiers and all of those things mentioned, but for the most part, it is again centered around Patroclus and Achilles. And another thing, when she said that the romance was built mainly in the beginning, although yes, it was set up a lot in the beginning, but they go through so much both prior to the start of the war, and then the events with Apollo and the plague, and then the relationship with Patroclus, Achilles, and Breus? Again, I don't know how to pronounce the words, I just love them and appreciate them. And then the events with Achilles not wanting to fight, and the betrayal of Agamemnon, and all of those things. So I feel like their relationship goes through a whole lot, and by the time of their deaths, if you are gonna claim spoilers, I don't know what to tell you. It's like 5,000-year-old spoiler. At the time of their deaths and them reuniting in death with the angst of Achilles' son, and you just, I don't know how you cannot care and how it cannot speak to you. Obviously I'm so biased, but it is so impactful and it goes full circle, and you also get the relationship with Patroclus and Achilles' mother, who was another person that they were so at odds throughout the entire book, and then you get her helping Patroclus get to her son when she spent pretty much the entire book trying to keep them apart. I wasn't really expecting her to cry or necessarily say that this book was her favorite of all time, but I was not expecting her to not care. And so that is really sad, and really sad to see. But I think I do agree with her when she said that you can't really recommend it to romance readers or fantasy readers, because I would recommend it to everybody. So, yeah. I will also say, I can't really speak to the fact that if you should or could enjoy this book if you are not versed in Greek mythology. Because there are definitely a lot of characters and a lot of things that happen. And I can't necessarily sit here and say that you will enjoy this if you don't know anything about Greek mythology, because I knew about the story of the Iliad and all of these characters before reading Song of Achilles, so I don't even know if it'll work out. But like, if you don't enjoy Greek mythology, yeah, it probably isn't necessarily the book for you. And I do understand the fact that she's not a huge fan of tragedies and these morality discussions and things like that, because it's definitely a sad book, but it's so much more than that, and it really signifies what Madeline Miller does in her writing, and it really speaks to me and what I want to do as an academic, and kind of bring those stories that have been lost to history back to the surface. So that's one of the reasons why I just appreciate this book so much, among many, many, many other things. But I think that is it for this video. It didn't hurt as bad as I thought it would. I am still really, really sad that Chandler didn't enjoy this book, but maybe I can get her to reread it physically one day and she will enjoy it even more, because it's good enough just to see all the quotes on the page. But again, I'm very biased, as we have established in this video. But I think that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down below if you have read Song of Achilles and what your thoughts are, especially if you really loved it, so I can feel better. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Definitely go watch all of Chandler's videos. It's such an amazing video idea, and her mind is so powerful. I'm gonna go. Goodbye.